Leave now, or you're going to wish you had. The words hit the air before his palm hit her face. Brian Keller, senior teller at Summit Trust's downtown branch, leaned across the counter with a stare sharp enough to cut glass. His right arm moved fast. No hesitation, no second thoughts. The crack of skin on skin was clean, cold, and loud enough to reset the room's pulse. Every head turned. Pens stopped moving mid-signature. A copier across the lobby jammed, spitting a half-printed form onto the floor. Even the toddler fussing in the corner went silent. Olivia Grant didn't flinch a second time. Her head had turned with the blow, but her body stayed rooted, anchored like the marble columns around them. Her left cheek burned, heat radiating in waves, but her gaze never dropped. Brian's voice came next, jagged with confidence. Get out. We don't serve scammers here. She didn't answer. Not yet. She adjusted the slim leather folio under her arm as if straightening the edge of a boardroom briefing. Black turtleneck, navy slacks, low heels. Nothing in her appearance hinted at the weight she carried. And that was deliberate. In the far corner, a young woman in a camel-colored coat lifted her phone halfway, thumb hovering over the red record button. Brian tapped the check lying between them, as though each tap proved his case. You people think you can waltz in here with a stolen check and a fake smile. Not on my watch. Somewhere near the ATM kiosk, someone coughed. No one laughed. The glass door sighed open behind her. A man in a dark puffer jacket stepped in, froze, and scanned the scene. A teller leaning forward with too much adrenaline, a woman standing still in the eye of it. Olivia could have ended this now. Could have said she was the founder and CEO of Grant Equity Holdings, the firm that had quietly purchased controlling interest in Summit Trust 6 months ago. But timing mattered. She'd learned across decades of contracts and takeovers that silence in the right moment carried more weight than a title ever could. Brian leaned in again, crowding the counter. Forgery's a crime. Security's already on the way. Her gaze flicked to the wall clock above his head. 10:02 a.m. 10 minutes from now. His employee ID would be worthless plastic. She didn't smile. The assistant branch manager appeared, gray skirt suit, tablet clutched to her chest. What's going on here? She asked, tone brittle. Brian didn't give her room to finish. She's trying to cash a fake instrument. Claims it's from a property sale. Won't say where it's from. Won't give real ID. A murmur started in the waiting area. Someone whispered, she hasn't said a word yet. The woman in the camel coat pressed her thumb down, recording now. Brian planted his hands flat on the counter. The faint scent of his cologne rode the air between them. Leave now, or you're going to wish you had. Olivia's reply was soft enough that people leaned forward to catch it. Are you certain? It wasn't a challenge. It was a timestamp. Before we continue, where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. And if you believe in dignity and justice, hit like and subscribe. These stories spark change. And we're glad you're here. Now, back to Olivia. She stood there, a still point in a room beginning to tilt. In her silence was the kind of power that doesn't rush, doesn't flinch, and doesn't forgive. The clock ticked. 10 minutes to go. Brian didn't step back. If anything, the slap had fueled him. He jabbed a finger at the check again, his voice climbing. You forged something this size, you're going to jail. Don't think standing there quiet makes you innocent. Olivia didn't move, her eyes, steady and unblinking, fixed on him as if committing every detail to memory. Tone, words, posture. Behind her, the glass doors sighed again. 2 more customers entered, slowed by the sight of a standoff at the teller counter. One whispered to the other, what happened? The assistant manager, unsure where to stand, shifted her weight from one heel to the other. Brian, she said cautiously, maybe we should. She's not a client, he cut in, turning his shoulder to block Olivia from view as though she were contaminating the space. This bank has standards. You think we just hand out millions to anyone who walks in looking like. He let the sentence trail, but the implication hung heavy. A soft chime sounded from a phone near the far wall. The young woman in the camel coat glanced down at her screen, then angled her camera higher. The red light stayed on. Olivia adjusted the folio under her arm again, the same slow movement as before, then finally spoke. Run my name. Brian laughed without humor. You think I haven't? There's nothing in the system for you. No account. No history. Her voice stayed level. Run it again. The assistant manager hesitated. Brian, maybe we should just... No, he said sharply. Security's already been called. Let them handle her. The words, handle her, drew a murmur from the waiting area. A man in a puffer jacket folded his arms. An older woman by the service desk shook her head. Brian leaned in so close the overhead lights caught in his eyes. You've got 10 seconds to walk out before they arrive. Olivia glanced at the wall clock. 10:04 a.m. 6 minutes left. She took out her phone, tapped once, and lifted it to her ear. Rachel, she said, her tone calm, but unmistakably directive. Initiate Protocol 7. Timestamp the interaction. Names, words, sequence. On the other end, Rachel's voice came crisp and immediate. Understood. All channels active. Recording from my end as well. Brian blinked. Who are you talking to? Olivia ended the call without answering. The assistant manager shifted again, this time stepping slightly back. She wasn't sure what Protocol 7 was, but the certainty in Olivia's voice made her uneasy. Ma'am, Brian said loudly, projecting toward the line of customers as if recruiting their approval. This is what fraud looks like. Big check, no ID that matches, and a story that falls apart if you ask twice. From the far end of the lobby, a man's voice cut through. She hasn't told any story. Heads turned toward him. He shrugged. I've been here the whole time. She's just standing there. Brian's jaw tightened. Sir, please mind your business. Olivia's voice came again, measured. You'll want to choose your words carefully. Every syllable from here on is evidence. Something in the way she said it, not loud, not angry, but deliberate, made the room quieter. Even the hum from the ceiling lights seemed sharper. The woman in the camel coat took a step closer, her camera steady now. The red light didn't blink. Brian exhaled through his nose like a man preparing to finish a job. Fine. Security will make this easy. Olivia let the silence stretch, then said, You've already made it easy. She placed the folio flat on the counter, her fingers resting on it, as though anchoring the space. The clock ticked to 10:05. 5 minutes to go. In the back of her mind, a memory stirred, 22 years old, standing in another bank lobby in another city, being told by another man in another suit that her check was too large to be real. Back then, she'd walked out in shame. Today, she wasn't walking anywhere. Brian didn't notice the shift in her posture. He only saw what he wanted to see. A mark, a liar, a problem to be removed. The problem was, in 5 minutes, the only one being removed would be him. By 10:05. The lobby was no longer just a lobby. It was an audience. The man in the puffer jacket had edged closer, arms still folded, but eyes locked on Brian. The older woman by the service desk now stood upright, purse hanging from one elbow, her expression sharpened to a point. The murmur between customers had grown into a steady hum, the sound of people deciding which side they were on. The assistant manager's hand hovered over her tablet. She glanced from Brian to Olivia, to the clock, then back to Brian. Maybe we should verify. Brian cut her off without even looking at her. She's not a client. We don't waste time on people like this. People like what? The question came from the woman in the camel coat, phone still raised. She took another step forward, her tone clear enough for the microphone to catch. Brian's mouth opened, then shut. He turned his back to her, muttering, Just stay out of it. Olivia hadn't moved. Her fingers still rested lightly on the folio, her gaze steady, unblinking. The heat in her cheek had faded to a dull throb, but the scene in front of her was crystallizing. Every word Brian spoke was tightening the noose he didn't even know was there. The front doors opened again. 2 security guards stepped in, both in navy blazers with the bank's crest on the breast pocket. One was young, his posture hesitant. The other, older and broad-shouldered, looked like he'd handled hundreds of incidents exactly like the one Brian thought this was. Brian's voice lifted, laced with satisfaction. Gentlemen, this is the woman I told you about. Fraud attempt. Won't leave. The older guard's eyes moved from Brian to Olivia, scanning her posture, her calm. Ma'am, could we step over here? His tone was polite, but procedural. Olivia's head tilted slightly. Not without your names, your ID numbers, and confirmation that your body cams are active. The younger guard blinked. Body cams. He glanced at his partner, who gave the slightest shake of his head. Brian scoffed. You see? She's stalling. That's what guilty people do. From the far corner, the man in the puffer jacket spoke again, louder this time. I've been here since she walked in. She hasn't said a thing except run my name. You're the only one yelling. The older woman by the service desk added, and hitting her. We all saw it. The temperature in the room shifted. Brian's face flushed, not with shame, but with the sudden realization that the crowd wasn't his anymore. The assistant manager finally spoke up, her voice smaller now. Brian, maybe we should, he turned sharply. I said no. She's wasting our time. Olivia's phone buzzed once in her hand. She tapped the screen and lifted it to her ear. Rachel, all lines are active, came the voice on the other end. We've logged every word. Confirming security arrival at 10:06 a.m. Do you want me to advance to phase 2? Olivia's eyes never left Brian's. Stand by. 30 seconds more. The younger guard shifted his weight. Ma'am, please, Olivia interrupted, her voice low but carrying. You're about to see something that's going to matter for the rest of your careers. I suggest you pay attention. The camel coat woman's phone was steady as stone now. Her live feed had comments flashing across the screen, lines of text and emojis rising faster than she could read. Brian threw his hands out in frustration. You think you're scaring me with your little phone calls? This is my branch. Olivia's reply was instant. No, it's my branch. And in 4 minutes, it won't be your job. A collective intake of breath moved through the lobby. Even the older guard's head turned fully toward her now. The clock read 10:06. 4 minutes left. And for the first time since the slap, Brian took a half-step back. 10:06 a.m. The red second hand swept forward, carving the moment into the wall clock above Brian's head. The shift in the room was subtle but unmistakable. People weren't just watching anymore, they were aligning. The man in the puffer jacket had planted himself squarely beside the camel coat woman, both their phones recording. The older woman by the service desk had drifted closer to Olivia, her lips pressed tight in silent solidarity. Brian didn't see it. Or maybe he refused to. He jabbed a finger toward Olivia. Ma'am, you have no business here. This check is fake. You're trespassing. You need to leave, now. The assistant manager took a small step forward, tablet still in her hands, but her voice was almost a whisper. Brian, I really think. You think wrong. He snapped, not looking at her. Olivia finally shifted her stance, not toward the door, but toward the counter. The folio that had stayed under her arm all this time now rested flat on the marble, her palm lightly pressing the leather as though pinning the moment in place. You've made your accusation, she said evenly. Now it's my turn. Brian laughed once, sharp and hollow. Your turn? You're lucky we haven't called the police yet. Her gaze didn't waver. They're already on their way. For the first time, uncertainty flickered across his face. What? I didn't call them, Olivia continued, her voice low but carrying to every corner of the lobby. My corporate security team did, the moment you put your hands on me. And when they arrive, they'll have the benefit of every word, every gesture, and every second from the past 6 minutes, documented and preserved. The younger security guard shifted uncomfortably. The older one's eyes narrowed, reading the undercurrent in her tone. Brian's voice rose again, brittle now. You're bluffing. Olivia tapped her phone once and held it up. Rachel's voice came through the speaker, crisp and unhurried. Phase 2 complete. All relevant footage backed up to corporate servers. Legal has been notified. CEO authorization ready for execution. A ripple moved through the crowd. Someone near the door whispered, CEO? Brian's mouth tightened. This is ridiculous. She's lying to all of you. The camel coat woman took a step closer, angling her phone toward him. Then you won't mind if I send this to the local news. Put that away, Brian barked, but the sharpness in his tone only made more heads turn. Olivia's eyes flicked to the clock again. 10:07 a.m. 3 minutes left. She looked at the younger guard. What's your name? He hesitated. Evan. Evan, she said. In 3 minutes, you'll be standing in a very different lobby. You'll want to remember which side you were on when it happened. The older guard cleared his throat, but said nothing. Brian slammed his hand down on the counter. Enough of this, he shouted. This is my branch, and I decide who stays and who goes. Olivia didn't blink. And that's where you're wrong. It stopped being your branch the moment I bought it. The words landed heavy. A few people gasped outright. The assistant manager froze mid-step, tablet lowering to her side. Brian forced a smirk. You expect me to believe you own this bank? No, Olivia said, her tone almost gentle. I expect you to believe the paperwork. Her phone buzzed again. She lifted it, Listening for exactly 3 seconds before speaking into the mic, proceed. Rachel's voice came back, firm and final. Protocol 7 complete. Effective immediately, Brian Keller's employee credentials are revoked. Access locked. HR termination file in process. All branch staff notified. The assistant manager's tablet chimed. She looked down, and her face drained of color. Brian, it's real. You're locked out. The red second hand reached the top of the clock face. 10:08 a.m. 2 minutes to spare. 10:08 a.m. The chime from the assistant manager's tablet still hung in the air when the reality hit Brian. He reached for his computer mouse out of habit, clicking to pull up the teller interface. The screen blinked, froze, then flashed a white box. Access denied. Contact administrator. What the hell? His voice was lower now, almost to himself. He clicked again, harder. Same message. The assistant manager took a cautious step back, as if proximity alone might drag her into whatever storm had just broken over him. It's not just the terminal, Brian, she said quietly. Your badge isn't valid anymore. A few customers shifted to get a better view. The man in the puffer jacket let out a low whistle. The camel coat woman's camera didn't waver. Brian straightened, forcing his voice back into something resembling control. You can't just, Olivia cut in, her tone level but unyielding. I can. And I did. He scoffed. You think you can walk in here, wave your phone around, and fire me? You made it easier than that, she replied. You struck a client. You made unfounded accusations in front of witnesses. You escalated without verification. And you did it in a branch owned by my company. The older guard finally spoke, his deep voice carrying. Ma'am, are you saying you're the CEO? Olivia confirmed. Grant Equity Holdings. We acquired Summit Trust last quarter. A hush fell over the lobby. The words seemed to rearrange the air itself. The assistant manager's eyes darted between Olivia and Brian. Is that true? She asked softly. Olivia didn't answer her directly. Instead, she turned to Evan, the younger guard. Escort Mr. Keller to collect any personal items from his station. Security protocol requires a witness from management. She glanced at the assistant manager. So you'll join him. Brian's voice cracked upward. You can't just humiliate me in front of everyone. You did that yourself, Olivia said, cutting him clean. I'm just making it official. Rachel's voice came through the speaker again, smooth and businesslike. Termination logged. Severance withheld pending investigation. Video and audio files from the incident uploaded to compliance. Brian's face reddened. You set me up. No, Olivia said, her voice almost soft. I gave you a chance to do your job with integrity. You failed in under 90 seconds. The camel coat woman spoke for the first time since hitting record. It's all here, she said, waving her phone slightly. The slap, the insults, the way you talked to her. Every bit of it. The older woman by the service desk added. And the way you talked about people like her. The crowd wasn't just watching anymore, they were testifying. Evan stepped forward reluctantly, looking at Brian. Sir, we should. Brian yanked his badge from around his neck and threw it onto the counter. It skidded to a stop near the folio. This is insane, he muttered, but his voice lacked the force it had minutes earlier. Olivia didn't touch the badge. In about 10 minutes, she said, compliance will call you for an exit interview. I suggest you answer honestly. Lying will only make the report worse. He stared at her, breathing hard, searching for a line that would land. None came. Olivia's gaze shifted back to the clock. 10:09 a.m. 1 minute left. You have 60 seconds before I have you physically removed, she said plainly. A ripple of murmurs spread through the lobby. Brian looked around, at the customers, at the guards, at the assistant manager whose eyes were now firmly on the floor, and seemed to realize the fight was over. When he finally stepped back from the counter, the sound of his shoes on the tile felt like the closing of a chapter. The man in the puffer jacket murmured, Guess the clock ran out. Olivia didn't smile. She just picked up the folio, her palm closing over the leather like a signature sealing a deal. The red second hand reached the top again. 10:10 a.m. exactly 10 minutes since the slap point 10:10 a.m. The minute hand clicked forward, and with it, the air in the lobby seemed to exhale. Brian stood frozen for a beat, like a man trying to remember how to move without the authority he'd wrapped himself in for years. The assistant manager finally stepped from behind the counter, gesturing toward the side door that led to staff lockers. This way, please. Her voice was flat, stripped of loyalty. Evan, the younger guard, positioned himself just behind Brian. The older guard stayed in place, his gaze steady on Olivia, as if recalibrating everything he thought he knew about the morning. Brian's jaw flexed as he looked around. He seemed to search the faces of the customers for sympathy and found none. The man in the puffer jacket gave him a slow shake of the head. The older woman near the service desk didn't bother to look away from Olivia. The camel coat woman's phone tracked every step. Her live stream feed scrolled fast. Hearts, angry faces, and comments stacking one over the other. She's the CEO? This is wild. Don't mess with quiet power. As Brian passed Olivia, he stopped just long enough to mutter, "You could have handled this differently." Her reply was measured, the tone of someone whose decision had already been made. "Yes, I could have let you stay." She held his gaze for a beat longer than comfort allowed. "But then I'd be telling every person in this room that your behavior is acceptable. And it isn't." A few heads nodded. The man in the puffer jacket let out a low that carried across the tile. Brian broke eye contact first, continuing toward the side door. His shoes scuffed against the floor, the sound oddly small in the space he'd once commanded with volume. When the door shut behind him, the assistant manager lingered just inside it, looking pale and unsure. Olivia didn't move toward her. She simply said, "You'll have a meeting with compliance this afternoon. My office will send the details." The assistant manager gave a stiff nod, then slipped out of sight. Rachel's voice came through Olivia's phone again, as if she had been standing in the lobby the whole time. "Termination complete. All systems updated. Do you want me to proceed with the branch-wide review?" Olivia's answer was immediate. "Yes. Include service audits for the last 12 months. Flag any incident reports that mention appearance, attitude, or not our type." A murmur of approval moved through the bystanders. The camel coat woman lowered her phone just enough to speak. "I hope you burn the whole list." Olivia's gaze softened slightly toward her. "I'm not here to burn it. I'm here to rebuild it." The older guard stepped forward then, clearing his throat. "Ma'am, I didn't know. If I had, you did what you were told," Olivia said, not unkindly. "But now you've seen it for yourself. Don't unsee it." He nodded once, the kind of nod that carried a quiet vow. The customers began to shift, the tension in their shoulders loosening. Some returned to their seats, others to the teller line, but their eyes kept darting back to Olivia. She turned toward the woman in the camel coat. "You have footage of the slap?" "Yes, the whole thing. Send it to the email I'll give you," Olivia said. "No posting until my legal team reviews it. Then it's your choice." The woman blinked. "My choice. It happened in your community," Olivia said simply. "You decide how it's remembered." For a moment, the lobby was silent except for the faint hum of the HVAC. Olivia picked up her folio again, sliding it under her arm like the weight of the morning had added nothing to it. Outside, the winter light spilled through the glass doors, catching in her hair. She took a slow breath and glanced once more at the clock. 10 minutes exactly from slap to removal. And as she stepped toward the exit, the murmurs followed, not the whispers of suspicion that had greeted her arrival, but the low, steady sound of respect being recalibrated in real time. The glass doors closed behind Olivia, but she didn't keep walking. She stopped just outside the branch, the chill in the air curling around her like a reminder to stay sharp. Through the tinted glass, she could still see the lobby, customers leaning toward one another, the camel coat woman replaying her footage for the man in the puffer jacket, the older woman by the service desk still standing sentinel. Rachel's voice came through her phone, steady as ever. "I've pulled the last 12 months of incident reports from this location. 14 flagged interactions that mention client appearance or attire. 7 marked unverified and never escalated." Olivia's eyes tracked the movement inside. "Names. I'm sending them now. 3 involve Keller directly. 2 were closed by the assistant manager. The rest, patterns consistent. Profiling dressed up as policy." Olivia exhaled through her nose. "And compliance signed off on it." "Regional compliance," Rachel corrected. "Not corporate. We can review that chain too." Olivia's gaze moved past her reflection in the glass to the 2 security guards inside. Evan stood near the counter, looking younger without Keller's shadow looming over him. The older guard was speaking to the assistant manager, his arms crossed. "Bring them both into the review," Olivia said. "Evan can stay, but he needs retraining." The senior guard. We'll see where he lands. Rachel paused before answering. Understood. Do you want a formal statement drafted? Yes. Plain language. This isn't just about one teller. It's about a culture that let him think 10 minutes of aggression would go unchallenged. From behind her, the camel coat woman stepped outside, phone in hand. I know you said legal first, but people are already asking for the video. Olivia turned toward her. And you can tell them you were there when the bank's owner was slapped by her own employee. But hold the clip. Once it's out, the story stops belonging to you. The woman nodded slowly, like she understood that more than she expected to. Inside, the assistant manager emerged from the side hallway, no longer holding her tablet. She looked toward the door, but didn't step out. Do you want me to finish the branch sweep today? Rachel asked. Yes, Olivia said. Lock down all customer service terminals until we've verified the audit logs. And pull camera footage from every angle of the lobby from 9:45 to 10:15 a.m. I want it synced with the audio transcripts. Rachel's typing was audible on the other end. Done. Also, Keller's already calling regional HR. Olivia's mouth lifted in something that wasn't quite a smile. Let him. By now, they've seen the lockout alert. They know whose authorization it came from. The camel coat woman hesitated, then said, I've seen people get treated badly in there before. Just not like this. Olivia met her eyes. Then today wasn't just about me. It was about the next person who walks in and thinks they're alone when they're not. The woman's grip tightened on her phone. I'll hold it until you call. Good, Olivia said. She turned slightly toward the curb, where a black sedan had just pulled up. The driver stepped out, opening the rear door without a word. Rachel's voice came one last time before Olivia slid into the car. You know this is going to make noise. The kind you can't control once it's out. Olivia settled into the seat, the folio resting on her lap like it had never left her side. Then we make sure the truth is louder. The sedan pulled away from the curb, leaving the branch behind, but not the reckoning. Inside those walls, procedures were already freezing, access was already revoked, and the story of a slap that lasted 10 minutes too long was only just beginning to travel. The black sedan stopped 2 blocks away, outside a discreet brick building with no sign above the door. Olivia stepped out, the winter air sharper here, and entered without slowing. Inside, the reception area was quiet. No framed photos, no plants, just a single desk and a secure elevator waiting at the end of a short hallway. Rachel was there in person now, tablet in hand. We've got the branch feed queued. Full camera coverage from 4 angles. They stepped into a small conference room. The wall-length screen lit up with a frozen frame. Olivia at the counter, Brian mid-gesture, his hand already rising. Rachel tapped the screen, and the scene rolled forward. The sound was as sharp here as it had been in the branch. Olivia's head turned with the blow. The gasps followed. From the other angles, they saw the customers reacting. The man in the puffer jacket straightening, the camel coat woman's phone lifting, the older woman by the service desk turning her full attention toward the counter. Rachel spoke as the footage played. Camera 1 gives us the clearest shot of the contact. Camera 2 catches Keller's expression afterward. Smug, not startled. Camera 3 has the crowd response. Olivia nodded once. And audio. Rachel tapped again. The sound from the camel coat woman's phone layered over the security feed, catching every word of Brian's accusations, every interruption to the assistant manager, and finally, Olivia's calm timestamps. He buried himself, Rachel said flatly. The footage continued, showing the security guards arriving, the customers beginning to speak up, and then Brian's face when Rachel's voice came through Olivia's phone in real time. The lockout chime from the assistant manager's tablet was clear even here. Olivia leaned back in her chair. Package this as a single timeline. 10 minutes, start to finish. And make 2 versions, one for corporate archives, one that can be released if necessary. Rachel swiped through her notes. The audit sweep on the branch systems is already revealing patterns. We've got 12 prior service denials tagged under Keller's ID. 7 of those have matching customer complaints that were marked as resolved by the assistant manager without escalation. Olivia's jaw set. What's the oldest one? 8 months ago. Elderly black couple trying to open a joint account. He flagged them as suspicious and marked the application incomplete. Get their contact information, Olivia said. I want them called personally. Rachel's pen tapped against her tablet. What about the assistant manager? She'll be suspended pending review, Olivia replied. But I want her exit interview documented with the same thoroughness. If she names others, we follow the chain. On the screen, the footage reached the moment where Brian tossed his badge onto the counter. Olivia watched herself not touch it, not rush, simply deliver the final countdown. This is why the protocols exist, she said quietly. So we don't need to raise our voices. The evidence does it for us. Rachel looked up. And the camel coat witness? She's holding the video until I give the word, Olivia said. When she releases it, the framing will already be in place. They let the final seconds of the footage play out. Brian walking to the side door, customers watching in silence, Olivia leaving without hurry. Rachel locked the screen and stood. Next step is regional compliance. They'll try to downplay it. Then we don't give them the chance, Olivia said. We deliver the findings to corporate first. By the time regional sees it, the decisions will already be made. As they walked back toward the elevator, Olivia glanced at the timeline on Rachel's tablet one more time. 10 minutes and 12 seconds from the first word to the last step. 10 minutes, Olivia said, her voice steady. Long enough to expose everything that was wrong in that room. The elevator doors opened, and they stepped inside, already moving to the next phase. The branch was under audit now, but Olivia knew the real work. The cultural shift was only beginning by mid-afternoon. Olivia's office on the 27th floor was flooded with the cold, silver light of winter. The city skyline pressed against the windows, but her attention was on the conference table where 3 monitors were already alive with video feeds. Rachel sat to her right, headset on, fingers moving quickly across her keyboard. Regional compliance just joined, she said. Audio only. A male voice came through the speakers, polite but taut. This is Mark Talbot, Compliance Director for the Northeast region. I understand there was an incident at our Summit Trust downtown branch this morning. Olivia didn't raise her voice. Yes. I terminated your senior teller, Brian Keller, for physical assault, verbal harassment, and conduct unbecoming of a bank employee. There was a pause. Terminated on the spot. On the spot, she confirmed. With cause. And with a complete audiovisual record of the events. I see, Talbot said slowly. While I understand the seriousness of the allegations, our protocol generally requires. Our protocol, Olivia interrupted, was written for situations where you need time to investigate. I didn't. I was there. Rachel tapped her tablet, and the wall screen behind Olivia lit up with a frozen frame. Keller's hand in mid-swing, Olivia's head just starting to turn. You'll receive the full 10-minute timeline, Olivia continued. Every angle, every word. Along with an audit of his last year of service denials and the assistant manager's suppression of multiple complaints. Talbot exhaled audibly. I was not aware of prior complaints. That, Olivia said evenly, is part of the problem. Either you didn't know, or you chose not to. Both are unacceptable. Rachel swiped, and the footage began to play without sound. Just the silent procession of events. The slap, the accusations, the arrival of the guards. The moment Keller's access was revoked. Talbot cleared his throat. Ms. Grant, I understand your position, but abrupt terminations create ripples. HR will have concerns. HR's concerns, Olivia said, should be focused on the customers we failed, not the employee who assaulted one in full view of the public. Another pause. Then, may I ask what you intend to do with the witness recordings? We've been made aware that at least one customer was filming. Olivia's eyes didn't leave the screen. The footage will be released when I decide it serves the right purpose. Not before. Talbot shifted in his tone, softer now. You understand this could attract significant media attention. Olivia leaned forward slightly, her voice cooling by a degree. Mark, my face has been in more newspapers than Keller could dream of. I'm not afraid of media attention. I'm afraid of letting his behavior stand without consequence. Rachel muted the call briefly, murmuring to Olivia. Corporate legal is ready for your signal if you want them in. Olivia shook her head. Not yet. She unmuted. Mark, here's what's going to happen. Regional compliance will cooperate with the audit. You'll receive the findings within 48 hours. If you resist, corporate will receive them directly with my recommendation for structural changes to your oversight. Another silence. Then, understood. Good, Olivia said. Because this isn't about one teller in one branch. It's about every moment someone like him thought they could get away with it. She ended the call without waiting for a farewell. The screen went black, and the room was quiet except for the low hum of the city beyond the glass. Rachel finally spoke. "They're rattled." "They should be," Olivia said. She stood, crossing to the window. The skyline reflected faintly against the glass, overlaying the city with her own shadow. Today was about accountability. Tomorrow will be about change. She turned back toward the table, where the paused frame of the slap still hovered on the central monitor. 10 minutes, she thought. Long enough to break a pattern, if you don't waste a second. The next morning, the air in Olivia's office felt sharper, as if the temperature had dropped overnight. Rachel was already there, a neat stack of folders in front of her and a laptop open to a secure portal. The witness files came in, Rachel said without preamble. Camel Coat Woman. Her name's Lydia Morales. Sent her full recording. Unedited, no filters. She also included the names of 5 other customers who were there and willing to give statements. Olivia set her folio on the table. "Play it." Rachel tapped a key, and Lydia's video filled the screen. The angle was slightly low, capturing Olivia's profile and Brian's looming frame on the other side of the counter. The sound was crisp. Every insult, every interruption, the moment the slap broke the room's stillness. From the background, you could hear the shifting of feet, the low murmur of customers, the startled coughs. Lydia's breath quickened slightly in the audio, but her hand stayed steady. The footage rolled on, catching the younger guard's hesitation, the older woman at the service desk speaking up, and finally, the exact moment Olivia's calm voice over the phone triggered Brian's access lockout. When the video ended, the screen froze on Brian's face, caught mid-realization. Rachel said, "She has over 20 minutes of footage. She kept filming after you left, captured Keller's walk to the side door, the customers talking about what happened. It's damning." Olivia's eyes stayed on the paused frame. "Does she want it public?" "She says she'll follow your lead. But she's angry, more than she sounded in person. She's seen things like this before, and she wants it to mean something." Olivia nodded once. "We'll give her that. But on our terms." Rachel slid another folder across the table. "These are statements from the other witnesses. Puffer Jacket Man is Daniel Whitaker, freelance photographer. He wrote 3 paragraphs describing Keller's tone, how you stayed silent, and how the crowd turned when the first customer spoke up. The older woman is Shirley Carter, retired school principal. Her statement is the most precise. Times, sequence, even the order of your words." Olivia skimmed the pages, absorbing the details. These aren't just witnesses, they're corroboration. Every word Keller said will be weighed against this. Rachel's fingers danced over the keyboard. "Do you want me to draft a coordinated release plan? One that combines corporate footage with the witness videos?" "Yes," Olivia said. 2 phases. Phase 1 goes to compliance, HR, and corporate leadership, internal only. Phase 2, if necessary, goes public with the full narrative. Rachel glanced up. "And if they try to suppress it?" "Then Phase 2 happens faster," Olivia said simply. Her phone buzzed on the table. She glanced at the screen, a text from legal. "Regional HR requesting mitigation, meeting Keller. Advice." Olivia handed the phone to Rachel. "Tell them there's nothing to mitigate. This isn't a negotiation, it's a conclusion." Rachel smiled faintly as she typed. "You know they're not used to someone cutting the process short. That's because too many leaders confuse process with justice," Olivia said. "They're not the same thing." On the screen, Lydia's paused video still showed Brian's stunned expression, the kind of moment that in any other story might have been followed by an apology. But Olivia knew better. He hadn't been sorry. He'd been caught. Rachel closed the file and leaned back. "So, when do we call Lydia?" Olivia checked the clock. 9:43 a.m. Give it until noon. "I want corporate to see the internal package first. Once they've had 3 hours to digest, we'll bring her in. She deserves to hear the next steps directly from me." Rachel made a note. "And the other witnesses?" "They'll get calls from my office today," Olivia said. "Not from compliance. Not from PR. From me. If we want them to trust this process, it has to come from the person who can actually change it." The room settled into a quiet hum of keystrokes and paper shuffling. Outside the window, the city moved on as if nothing had happened. Inside, Olivia was setting in motion a chain of events that would make sure the next time someone like Keller tried to pull the same stunt, they wouldn't last 10 minutes. If they lasted 10 seconds, by 1 p.m., the 18th floor boardroom was ready. A long glass table stretched between Olivia and a line of regional executives who looked like they'd rather be anywhere else. The blinds were half closed, slicing the winter light into pale stripes across their faces. Rachel stood at the far end, laptop open, a discreet remote in her hand. She tapped it once, and the wall behind Olivia lit up with the 10-minute timeline. No narration, just clean footage from the branch cameras synced with the witness audio. The first 30 seconds passed without a word from the table. The slap landed. The sound filled the room. A few of the executives flinched. Olivia didn't look at them. Her eyes stayed on the screen. She wanted them to watch, to sit with it, to hear Brian's voice dripping with certainty and contempt. At 3:15 on the timeline, the first customer spoke up in her defense. At 4:08, the crowd shifted. At 6:32, her voice over the phone triggered the lockout. By 10:10, Keller was gone. When the screen went black, Olivia finally turned toward the table. That's what happened in one of your branches. In the middle of a business day, in front of your customers. A man in a navy suit cleared his throat. Ms. Grant, no one is disputing the behavior was unacceptable, but terminating on the spot, she cut him off. You've seen the footage. Tell me what part of that warranted a day's delay, let alone a week of review. Silence. Another executive, a woman with a pearl brooch, tried a softer angle. There is the matter of public perception. If this goes viral, it will, Olivia said. The question is whether we're remembered as the company that acted instantly or the one that hesitated to protect its own image. Rachel clicked again, pulling up a slide of the audit findings. 12 prior service denials under Keller's name, 7 customer complaints closed without escalation, 2 confirmed cases of racial profiling documented in internal notes. These were in your systems, Olivia said. They stayed there because no one looked. Or worse, because someone looked and decided it didn't matter. The man in the navy suit shifted uncomfortably. What do you propose? A complete review of every service denial in the last 18 months, Olivia replied. New escalation protocols for customer complaints. Mandatory anti-bias training for every branch employee, starting with management. The woman with the brooch frowned. That's costly. Olivia's voice was steady. So is losing customers who see themselves in the people you dismiss. So is the lawsuit Keller would have handed us if I hadn't caught him in the act. One of the quieter executives finally spoke up. And the witness video? It stays under control until I say otherwise, Olivia said. But when it's released, it will show not just Keller's behavior, but our response. Swift. Final. Non-negotiable. Rachel glanced at Olivia, who gave the smallest nod. She tapped the remote again, bringing up a slide with 3 bold words. Immediate. Visible. Permanent. This isn't a PR exercise, Olivia said. It's a course correction. You will either be part of it, or you'll explain to the board why you chose not to be. The man in the navy suit looked down at his folder. The woman with the brooch pursed her lips, but didn't speak again. Olivia let the silence stretch just long enough to make the point. Then she stood, gathering her folio. You have 48 hours to sign off on the measures. Rachel will circulate the documents. If I don't see your approvals by then, I'll take it directly to corporate and to the board. She didn't wait for a reply. As she left the room, Rachel fell into step beside her, the door swinging shut on a table full of executives who had just realized the ground beneath them wasn't as solid as they thought. In the elevator, Rachel finally said, They're going to move fast now. They'd better, Olivia replied. Because this isn't the only branch I'm looking at. By the next morning, the internal memo was already live across the company network. It carried Olivia's signature at the bottom, but every word had been weighed and sharpened the night before. The subject line was plain. Our standards are non-negotiable. Rachel sat opposite Olivia in her office, reading aloud from the final draft while sipping coffee. Effective immediately, all employees are reminded that respect, safety, and dignity are the baseline of our service, not optional extras. Any breach, verbal or physical, will be met with decisive action, regardless of tenure or role. Olivia leaned back in her chair, watching the city below as Rachel continued. Branch managers are instructed to review all service denials from the last 18 months. Any case involving subjective language about appearance, demeanor, or perceived fit must be escalated to corporate compliance for review. Rachel lowered the paper. It's strong, direct, no fluff. That's the point, Olivia said. I'm not here to make anyone comfortable. I'm here to make sure they understand exactly where the line is and what happens if they cross it. Her phone buzzed. A text from Lydia Morales. Ready when you are. Olivia typed back. Call at noon. We'll walk through release options together. Across the desk, Rachel smiled. You think she'll keep it private? Olivia shook her head. No, and she shouldn't. But when it goes out, the narrative will already be in place. It won't just be a video of a slap. It'll be proof of how quickly we acted. She glanced at the framed photo on her desk. A much younger Olivia, standing outside her first storefront, smiling despite the chipped paint on the door. 20 years ago, someone could have done what Keller did and walked away with nothing more than a smirk. I want people to remember that's not this world anymore. At 11:55 a.m., Rachel connected the call. Lydia's voice came through clear, no hesitation. I've got the file ready. You tell me when to hit upload. Olivia's tone was steady. Do it at 3 p.m. That gives corporate PR time to issue a statement, and it gives you time to add your own words. My own words? Lydia asked. Yes. People will listen to you because you were there. Tell them what you saw. Tell them why it matters. There was a beat of silence. Then Lydia said, All right. 3 o'clock. When the call ended, Olivia stood and walked to the floor-to-ceiling windows. Below, the city moved in its usual rhythm. People hurrying across crosswalks, buses sliding into stops, lives intersecting in moments that might change nothing or change everything. At exactly 3 o'clock, Rachel refreshed her feed. Lydia's post was live. The video, uncut, with a caption that read, I watched a black woman CEO get slapped in her own bank. 10 minutes later, the man who did it was out of a job. This is what accountability looks like. The view count jumped in real time. Hundreds, then thousands, then tens of thousands. Comments flooded in, some angry, some stunned, many grateful. Rachel looked up from her screen. It's moving fast. Good, Olivia said. Let it. The faster it spreads, the sooner the next Brian Keller thinks twice. By evening, the story had already hit local news. By midnight, national outlets were calling it the 10-minute firing. Olivia ignored the interview requests. The memo was her statement. The video was her proof. And somewhere in another branch, another teller read that memo and realized the margin for cruelty had just been cut to zero. Olivia closed her office for the night, the skyline glowing against the dark. She didn't feel triumphant. She felt steady. Justice, she thought, isn't noise. It's precision. And precision is what changes the system, 10 minutes at a time.